Sure, we love Marvel, but today is a DC day. We'll be discussing the CW's Crisis on Infinite Earths, as well as HBO's Watchmen. Also, there are several new trailers that have us looking forward to the new year, as well as the new decade. All this and more on today's episode of the Geek Watch Podcast.
This is the Geek Watch Podcast with Brian Hatcher and Mandy Petrie.
Greetings, Geek Watchers, and welcome to episode 93 of the Geek Watch Podcast. I'm Brian Hatcher, and with me, as always, Geek Watch's own resident geek goddess, Mandy Petrie.
Hello, Brian.
So, the last podcast of the year.
Yes.
The last podcast of the decade.
Yes.
Wow, can you believe it? 10 years. Yeah, we're getting to 2020.
20 years in the new millennia. That was, I can't remember if we talked about it in the last podcast about what was happening in 1999 and the big Y2K scare.
Oh, yes, I remember that because I was very much involved in that. I was doing computer tech work at the time, and we had to go in and fix all the coding on this. So,
oh, wow.
So it wasn't the big Armageddon everybody thought it was going to be, but we managed to get by somehow. Yeah, so this is going to be it for the year, but we still got a lot to talk about and a lot to look forward to. So before we get into a lot of the DC stuff that we delved into this week, I did want to talk a little bit of television. I saw an article, and we talked about this on the podcast before, about Kevin Smith doing an animated Masters of the Universe movie on Netflix. Yep. Revelation. Well, apparently they've decided, since they have the Masters of the Universe He-Man license, they're going to do more with it. Of course, we knew about She-Ra, which I think they got another season of that coming out. But they're going to be doing, I guess, a soft reboot of the actual TV show. The art's going to look a little bit different, but it's going to be, I guess, like a soft reboot of the Masters of the Universe. And I guess they really liked what Kevin Smith was doing with the movie, because he's writing and directing the TV show.
Oh, way to go. So
now how the movie and the TV show are going to relate to each other, I'm not sure yet. All we got was on Twitter, we got an image of the new school Skeletor, which is, he looks similar to what we got on the original series, but you can tell he's been tweaked for modern audiences. So
to make it easier on computer graphics to animate.
Possibly so. Although, if you remember the old TV show, there are very many times where you saw the same animation over and over again. And so maybe that was a little bit easier.
But same backgrounds, just to lay the cell over. But with now, you're putting everything in computers. So a lot of that can be, I guess, streamlined. I don't know what would be the best way to actually put that. I'm rotoscoping. May have been It'll be, like I said, Kevin Smith
writing for the show and directing it. He's a huge fanboy of different things, so it's going to be fun to see what they do with it for sure. Sticking with the television, of course, we've been talking about Star Trek PICARD, and of course we mentioned how in Swamp Thing how they had canceled the show before it came out. Well, Star Trek PICARD, they've approved a season 2 before it's come out.
Oh, wow.
So,
there's been a lot of hype around it. And
a lot of people are excited, about it because of a lot of the nostalgia side of it. And there's like a lot of characters from the original television series showing up in a lot of the trailers. And so you're getting...
And Patrick Stewart has become such meme fodder. So, he's being known by this new generation and all these memes. So, he's beloved. He's our beloved knight.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And so they were like, well, this seems to be working out really well. So let's go ahead and just approve the second season. And I think they're getting ready to start shooting it, as a matter of fact.
Awesome.
So we know we're going to get at least 2 seasons of that show. One other thing on television, and we've been talking about this a little bit, a lot of the issues in Marvel, the sort of the civil war, if you will, between the movies side of it and the television side of it. Well, it's now official. Marvel TV is gone. It's all been integrated into the Marvel side of it. So Kevin Feige is running the whole ball of wax. Now, he was working in Marvel Television, but he was underneath of someone else, and he was basically there for continuity's sake, to keep continuity between TV and the movies, although he didn't really have a lot to say about a lot of the stuff that was going on. But with the success of the movies, they gave him more and more responsibilities, and then finally now he's in charge of the whole ball of wax. Now, well, of course, we've only got one more season of S.H.I.E.L.D., and I know that they've been working, Marvel Television been working on the Hellstrom TV show before, I guess, all this was announced. Now, I'm assuming that the Hellstrom is still a go, but I haven't heard anything about that. So, but yeah, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., this is their last season, so it's not going to really affect them that much. Yeah, what this does with the Hellstrom show, I'm not sure. And of course, there's some other stuff, in Freeform, with Cloak and Dagger and other little. Of course, the whole Netflix, all the Netflix Marvel shows were completely wiped at this point. So, but we'll find out for sure as things develop for sure. So let's talk a little bit of DC TV then. Crisis on Infinite Earths. We've already gotten 3 episodes over the last week, and we got 2 more coming in January. I know you've caught parts of it. Have you? How much of it?
Nope, none of it. I haven't seen any of it.
Oh, you haven't seen any of it? Okay.
No, I saw a picture on Tom Ellis's Instagram because, I love Lucifer and I watch him, and he had this picture of Constantine with him, and it said, I guess, that something like the cat's out of the bag, and I thought that Constantine was going to show up on Lucifer, but as you told me, apparently Lucifer shows up in Crisis on Infinite Earth.
Yeah, which makes sense because, of course, he is a character from the Sandman series, which, of course, Vertigo was a branch of DC Comics, so it makes sense to bring him in. And, of course, they, like I said, I don't want to go into a whole lot of spoiler territory on this one. If anyone's not seen it yet, of course, you can catch it, all of it on the CW app, which is where I was watching it for the most part. But there was a lot of great cameos in it. I mean, it was great seeing Brandon Routh play Superman again. Getting to see Kevin Conroy take on Batman in a certain way, and what they did
actually on film, not just voicing,
not just voicing or in a video game. And what they did with that character, I thought was really interesting. It was a bit of a surprise, but seeing a lot of cameos in these 3 episodes of course we got to see Burt Ward. And
I hope he said holy something.
He did. He absolutely did. Of course he did.
Awesome.
Because he has to. And we got that, and we I don't know if you remember the old Birds of Prey TV show.
Yes, I do. That was my first introduction to the Birds of Prey.
Yes, so we get a little bit of Huntress.
Excellent.
And of course, we got to see a little bit of the first Flash. Now he's appeared in on the CW shows before in the Flash, and getting to see that was cool. There was a lot. I mean, there's all these little things. Of course, Lucifer, getting to see him and getting to see Constantine, and there was, like I said, there's been just a lot of interesting matchups. I mean, seeing Supergirl and Batgirl, or Batwoman, I should say, seeing them interact with each other and kind of building that arc was pretty neat. But there's a lot of things. I mean, I'm not a big viewer of a lot of the CW shows, but definitely going into Crisis, I mean, you get an idea of what's going on, especially if you saw, the first big crossover that they did. But I've really enjoyed it so far. And I mean, again, you're getting that sort of a Marvel feel in that, you're seeing all these people together in one thing, but it's not even just the fact that all these different CW shows are coming together, but a lot of the history of DC on television are being represented in these shows, which is really neat. And I do have to say, as far as definitive characters, because I had never gotten a chance to see him play this particular character until I saw Crisis, but Jon Cryer as Lex Luthor, he may be the definitive Lex Luthor. And there's been some great Lex Luthors out there for sure. But his characterization of Lex Luthor is just amazing. Yeah. He may be the best Lex Luthor that's ever been realized. And of course, it's funny because he played Lex's nephew in Superman 4. Yep,
I can remember that. And I always picture Jon Cryer as live-action George Jetson.
Yeah, I can see that. I can definitely see that. Right. But he is. He's incredible in this, and I'm really digging his Lex Luthor and the little twist at the end, the cliffhanger. that involves Lex Luthor, amazing. So we'll have to wait till January. But,
so is he mad scientist Lex Luthor, businessman Lex Luthor, or politician Lex Luthor?
Well, there's a little hint of politician Lex Luthor, which is involved in Tom Welling, who also makes a cameo. Mm-hmm. But mostly he's, I would say, businessman / mad scientist. Mm-hmm. He is an amazing Lex Luthor. But
so was Tom Welling in the same scene as Lucifer? Because Tom Welling was on Lucifer, so I thought.
Well, no, he was. He played the character. He was playing the character that he played, of course, in Smallville, with an interesting. He and Lex Luthor had a moment, which was funny because, of course, he didn't recognize Jon Cryer's Lex Luthor, but he's like when he said, it's Lex Luthor, and he's like, "What? The president's in town?" So apparently that Lex Luthor did go on to become the president. But there's a lot of great fan service in the series so far, and I am interested to see where it goes because a lot of people died. A lot of people wound up dying. But and there were a lot of great, like I said, a lot of references to the comics, a lot of references to the TV shows. So it's been fantastic. So we'll see what happens in. When they start back up and do the 2-part finale in January. But let's talk about the show that you've seen that I haven't seen yet, which is Watchmen on HBO.
Yes, I still have 1 episode to go.
So, which is the season finale
and series finale so far that we know of.
Yeah, because they haven't really said they're going to do a season 2, but my understanding is this thing is it's like we talked about in the podcast before. This is supposed to be self-contained. And everything is supposed to finish up.
Wrap up
in this season. So I haven't seen it, but I've been hearing a lot of great things about it.
It's gorgeous. It's beautiful to look at. It's masterful storytelling. You get some backstories that, that were hinted at. I mean, everything that was hinted at, especially like Hooded Justice, everything that was hinted at about Hooded Justice is barely the tip of the iceberg. It goes so much deeper than anything you ever thought. And it's just all these worlds are way opened up but still there are small stories, that you hope these characters get what they want. And we're told that it's going to end tragically. And I'm not looking forward to that. But we have been warned that it's definitely going to end tragically. But it is great. You got to check it out. It's perfect. I see it as like, this is exactly where this world would have gone.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've been hearing a lot of good reviews on it. I tend to very often in these type of situations, I'll see I'll wait until the entire season's done. Mm-hmm. Of course, I'm not doing that with The Mandalorian, obviously. And of course, they ended that. There's one more episode to go. We got to see the last chapter early because, of course, they're not going to play it on Friday for obvious reasons. But yeah, I mean, I've been hearing a lot of just really awesome things about Watchmen, and I knew this was one of those things. I mean, for a lot of comic book people, Watchmen it's a sacred text for real, and people love Watchmen. And going into adding more to it, that you're taking a risk. You're certainly taking a risk, but I hear it's been paying off. And I've heard
if you just stuck with the first 1 or 2 episodes, it does feel a little social justice warrior. You get that, but then once you get further into the story, that's just like a sidebar of everything that's going on.
Yeah, well, I mean, good stories have a lot to say, for sure, about a lot of things. And I've heard a lot of people say this is probably some of the best television out there. And so, during the holidays, I may have to binge this one for sure. And one other thing, television-wise, and I was torn whether I was even going to mention this or not because, I'm not the biggest fan of bad news necessarily, but I think this is something that we probably do need to talk about. And that is the news that Orlando Jones has been fired from.
Yeah, what? Yeah. And that was flooring.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and American Gods, and I've told you how much I've enjoyed that show.
Yeah, and I don't even watch it, but I love the book, so.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed what they've done with the first season. I haven't been able to crack into the second season yet. I mean, I've got that set up, ready to go, but yeah, I mean, I don't know how trying to give people the benefit of the doubt's one thing, I want to try to give people the benefit of the doubt, whether there's a reason or not. But if a quarter of what Orlando Jones is saying is true about why he was fired, this is messed up.
Yeah. Heartbreaking.
Yeah. And the thing about it is this, and like I just said, it's like good stories have something to say. And the character of Mr. Nancy had a lot to say. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I can understand a lot of the things that he said was uncomfortable. But if you're talking about slavery, it shouldn't be comfortable. Mm-hmm. And just making that voice go away doesn't change anything. It just kind of makes you look bad, mm-hmm. That character is very effective and has a lot to say. And one of the reasons why I enjoyed watching American Gods is because it wasn't just fluff entertainment. Not that there's anything wrong with just being entertained, but there was some meat on those bones. Mm-hmm. And the other thing that worries me, let's forget about the fact that this is, again, if this is all true, this is as racist as hell. But let's ignore that for a moment, like some other people seem to be trying to do. But if you're going to be scared of rocking the boat and you're willing to get rid of an actor to do that, you're going to kill this show, because this show is based on rocking the boat. Mm-hmm. What about that show isn't going to offend somebody? You look you look at the first season. There's a bunch of stuff in there. People are like, whoa, wait a minute. If you're trying to make a show that makes everybody happy, you don't do American Gods. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you just don't. And, to me, Orlando Jones being fired is bad enough. Mm-hmm. But it's just the beginning. If they continue to do, they're going to wind up gutting this show. Mm. Because you can't make this non-offensive to people. And it's not the point. Mm-hmm. So I just don't know. I'm not definitely excited about any kind of a season 3, especially if they're looking to smooth things out and make it more palatable. Sorry, I don't go to a Mexican restaurant to eat bland food. I don't go to American Gods not to be challenged. Mm-hmm. That's the point.
And having not seen it, having read the book, but I'm also a big fan of Anansi folklore. And when it comes to the character of Anansi, comparatively to any other trickster god or even just any other kind of god, rarely do you get such stories where the character, the protagonist, is so flawed that not only is he a trickster and he tricks people, but he also gets tricked a lot. I don't think you get that as much with Coyote or Cocopelli, but you get that with Anansi, where at the beginning of the story he tricks someone, and then by the end of the story he's been completely tricked himself. And that's what kind of I love about all of his folklores and all of his stories. So I'm sad that we've lost that, and it's
Mr. Nancy, that character in this show was incredible. Mm-hmm. It was one of the best characters. And when he's first introduced on that slave ship in season 1, wow. Mm-hmm. I was like, that's as good as television gets. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to give people the benefit of the doubt, but boy, does this look bad. Whatever reason it was to get rid of him was a mistake. It was a mistake. I don't understand why this happened. I just feel bad about it. I feel bad for the future of this show, a show that I really enjoyed, but I enjoyed it because of characters like Mr. Nancy, and their willingness to talk about those type of things in a television show. That's what made the show good. And I just, getting rid of Mr. Nancy does not make this show better. It just doesn't. And I don't know. I just don't know. But hey, since, this is the end of the year, of course, Hollywood wants to get us excited about what's coming out. So we got a bunch of new trailers and some things we definitely need to talk about trailer-wise that have come out in the last few days. And I know you've seen the Ghostbusters Afterlife trailer.
Oh, yeah.
What did you think?
It's nothing like you're expecting out of a Ghostbuster story. It feels like any other haunted house. A family moves out to the middle of nowhere into this possibly haunted town, haunted mine, whatever. But now you add this Ghostbuster twist to it, and instead of running away or trying to exorcise the ghosts, we're going to catch them. We're going to fight against the ghosts. And so that seems really exciting. you get all these little hints to Dr. Egon, those little petri dishes of
Right.
mold spores and
fungus.
and fungus.
Yeah, so I guess like the mother is the daughter of Egon Spangler, Dr. Spangler.
That's what it's kind of sounding like. We're not for sure, but that's what it's kind of leading you to think.
Is what it looks like. So of course, the young man and the young lady are possibly Egon's grandchildren. You have the gearhead and Wolf Finhart's character, which some people are saying, oh, this is just Ghostbusters meets Stranger Things. And I'm like, you say that like it's a bad thing.
Yeah.
That's a really good thing. And of course, the science whiz is the young lady. Now, some of us are old enough to remember the Ghostbusters toys that came out, with the real Ghostbusters cartoon show.
Yeah, the cartoon.
And one of the things we remember, of course, the Ecto-1 had the seat that popped out, and we got, and that happened in the, you get that in the trailer.
What did they call it? The shotgun seat or the firing? I forget what they called it, but it had something to do with shooting.
It's like a gunner
seat. Yeah, it had something to do with shooting. I know.
The thing about it is, it doesn't look like a typical, like your Ghostbusters.
It's not in the city. It's,
And I'm fine with that. I mean, it does look like a Jason Reitman film. It's definitely got that tone to it. But the fact that it's not trying to be a remake of Ghostbusters, I mean, I know some people might not like that, and it's a daring choice to make that you're not making the tone exactly the same. But I like that. I'm glad that they're going somewhere else with it. So I'm interested in I'm definitely interested in the film. Now I haven't heard of this a lot, but every once in a while you hear somebody make the comment that if you like this trailer you're sexist, and of course they're dragging 2016 back into this whole thing. But I mean those were really two different films.
Yeah, I haven't seen any of that. I have seen memes that are like, Is Finn Wolfhard ever going to get to be not Finn Wolfhard? Because that's what he is in every movie that he does. Yeah.
Well, he's found his niche for sure. And it's not the first time, of course, he's worn the Ghostbuster suit, because he did in Stranger Things. Yeah, he's sort of that kid that you're going to find in the horror movie. Of course, he was in It. He played Richie in It. So, and I like that line he had in the trailer. So, hey, you remember that one summer where he died under a table? So there's some humor there, but like I said, it's not going the crazy slapstick humor. I do wonder if some of the trailer, if Sony wasn't looking at the 2016 Ghostbusters trailer and remembering that it was like the most disliked movie trailer in the history of YouTube, and they were like, well, let's not do that again. I mean, you definitely get that feeling. It's like they were trying to be careful and not have a repeat of 2016. So it certainly made me interested in seeing it, and the fact that it's not a rehash of Ghostbusters, that the tone seems to be different, although it will give you that stuff. And I tell you what I really like is the fact you've got the kids who are about the same age a lot of us were when we originally saw Ghostbusters, so we can identify with those kids because of that. But then we also get Paul Rudd, who's about the age we are now. And he's a Ghostbusters fan. So now we can identify with him. He's us now. So the kids were who we were back in 1984 when Ghostbusters first came out. And Paul Rudd is who we are now, and getting to examine that, because if you're going into a movie with nostalgia, you're in that split mind. You're thinking about what it was like when you were a kid, but you're also experiencing it now as the person you are now. And I think it was really clever splitting up that narrative that way, so that, you kind of get a little bit of both of that. So, I mean, they certainly know what they're trying to do in this film, and I can't wait to see it for sure. Also, speaking of movies, we got the first Wonder Woman trailer in 1984.
Yeah.
And she can swing on lightning bolts. For what we knew was going to be in the film, I mean, it basically said, yep, that's what's going to be in the film, but it gave us a taste of what to expect. And, of course, Patty Jenkins, we know what she's capable of. We saw the first Wonder Woman film, and we're going to get more of the same for sure. Kristen Wiig, I have to say, I'm really interested to see what they do with her character.
Yeah, because, hearing that, she's the villain, and at this moment she doesn't seem like the villain, so either they're twisting the character or they're going to give us a twist in the character. So,
well, there's a moment where she walks into a party where you feel like she's made some sort of a change, because she seems like she's somebody who doesn't have a lot of confidence in herself. And at that moment, she seems to be really confident in herself. And we wonder, they say she's playing Cheetah, and she's one of the villains. Of course, we see Maxwell Lord in this also. And people who know who Maxwell Lord is probably, it's a safe assumption that Steve Trevor being back might have a lot to do with Maxwell Lord. And of course, people who've read the comics remembers that Wonder Woman wound up being in the outs with the Justice League when Maxwell Lord took over Superman because he can do mind control. And when Wonder Woman basically bound him in the lasso of truth and asked him, how do I get Superman out of your control? And he says, you'll have to kill me. And she's like, okay, and snaps his neck right there. People are like, whoa, wait a minute. He's like, but he said, I said, I had to do it. So it makes you wonder what's going to happen to Maxwell Lord in this movie. Are we going to get to that point where Wonder Woman has to make some sort of a choice? I don't know. Mm-hmm. But yeah, anytime you mention Maxwell Lord and Wonder Woman, people think about that moment and they're like, oh, that was unexpected. So again, we'll be getting that next year, and I can't wait for that. I mean, as of right now, Wonder Woman is the most successful of all the DC movies that are out there. Although, I mean, Aquaman did really well. Shazam has done really well, and they've of course announced that Shazam 2 is coming. Yeah. So expect that here soon. A movie I didn't know was coming out, and kind of trailer. I want to say it was like first part of the week. Was a Ryan Reynolds film called Free Guy,
where the video games become self-aware.
Yeah, where he's basically an NPC. Mm-hmm. And he finds out, I'm in a video game, and he basically decides to get a promotion. He wants to be the hero. He doesn't want to be the guy standing in the background.
Kind of like The Matrix and Wreck-It Ralph. And,
we've had movies in the past like Tron and Wreck-It Ralph and Ready Player One. Yeah. Where you're going into the video game world. But, everybody who's been, they were the heroes. Of course, they're the main players because, of course, that's who we identify with when we play games. But to take this, literal everyman, the guy that, works in a bank and the bank's always getting robbed because, of course, like very much like that reference to GTA where the players are continuing to come in and rob the bank. And he's just like every day he goes in, he wakes up to the sound of gunfire every morning. Goes to the bank, somebody is constantly coming in with a shotgun to rob the bank, and he's getting into the floor as he does every day he goes into work. And the fact that things kind of turn around and he decides, no, I'm going to take control of my life.
Oh, Pleasantville. That's what I'm thinking of. Okay, so it's like The Matrix meets Pleasantville meets Wreck-It Ralph.
Yeah, I think that's a good description of it. But the trailers got me interested for sure. There's some mystery stuff coming out also that I found interesting. We did finally get a full trailer for Tenet, which is the new Christopher Nolan film.
I've only seen the poster, which is just the word Tenet.
There was a teaser trailer that had like nothing in it. And so it was like we had no idea what this movie's about. And if you see the trailer, you're still kind of wondering what's going on. Although the main character is some sort of an agent of some sort, maybe not a government agent, but someone who works behind the scenes. And it appears in the trailer, although they never blatantly say this, is that time can either because of him, he has the ability to control time, or there's something controlling time, but time runs backwards and forwards. There are times where things reverse themselves. And so what this movie's about exactly, the trailer doesn't tell you. It just gives you all these little snippets of weird things are happening. And there have been a lot of people who've said that this is probably Nolan's most ambitious film to date.
Really?
And I'm thinking, that's saying a lot.
Yeah.
When you see the movies that Nolan's made so far, I mean, to say that's his most ambitious film that's crazy.
After The Dark Knight?
Well, after like Inception.
Oh, I forgot about Inception.
Interstellar. I mean, there are some very complex storytelling. There's a lot of complex storytelling in a lot of what he does. And to say this is his most ambitious film, I'm like, what more can you put into a Christopher Nolan film? I have no idea. I don't know, but I guess we'll find out. I also got to see a trailer, and I know you saw a poster for it. I don't know if you ever saw the trailer for it, which just came out recently. The Amy Adams film, The Woman in the Window.
Nope, I haven't seen.
This is sort of, I guess, from what I can tell from the trailer, this is very much like Hitchcock's Rear Window.
Okay.
Amy Adams is agoraphobic, so she can't leave her apartment. So where Jimmy Stewart, he had a broken leg and couldn't leave his apartment. Right. She's horribly agoraphobic. So
where the several movies where like someone's under house arrest and they can't leave.
Right.
Yeah.
And so she makes friends with somebody from across from another house. She can see into their window and, makes a friend with this woman and then sees her murdered. Mm-hmm. But weird things start to happen in this, in the trailer. The husband comes over and says, "You made a mistake. My wife isn't dead," and introduces his wife to her, and it's not the same person. Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. There's very, very Rear Window.
Yeah, very Rear Window. And there's some,
And what lies beneath. And
I mean, there's a lot of gaslighting going on in this. Mm-hmm. It looks like this is going to be a really interesting film. And I mean, the cast looks solid. When you get Gary Oldman playing the doctor, the husband, and of course, Amy Adams, this is going to be, I have to say, this is going to be a really solid film. And I'm looking forward to it for sure. One last trailer that we did wind up seeing that just came out today, and I can't even call it a trailer. It's just a teaser just to let you know, oh, by the way, there is going to be a Quiet Place 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We just pretty much see the family.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's it. So just to let you know, just to kind of tap on the shoulder, here you go. It's coming. So that's all we got of it so far, but we may see more of a trailer on down the road, but just in case you didn't know, hey guys, if you like Quiet Place, it's we're getting part 2. So, and of course, by the end of Quiet Place 1, there was some place for them to go with it. So, but of course, you can say that about pretty much every movie that comes out now, because everybody's like, hey, let's try to get that sequel in, for sure. So there's a lot to look forward to, and a lot to look forward to in the very, very near future, because of course, this weekend is Star Wars. Star Wars. The final one, The Rise of Skywalker.
Rise of Skywalker. Mm-hmm.
Now, I've been seeing reviews, and I guess it depends on who you talk to. I have to say, it's a very polarizing film from what I'm hearing. Mm-hmm. I mean, people are either really loving this film or they're really hating it, which is weird. I think some of it has to do with, they feel like, the whole issue with Rian Johnson and the last film, The Last Jedi, and how some fans were disappointed with some of the choices that he made, and the fact that he felt like he decided to do his own thing away from and do Star Wars the way he wanted to do it, and kind of threw away some of the storylines that they've been developing. From what I understand, some of the reviewers and some people who have seen the movie already are saying, that J.J. Abrams has come in and had to patch a lot of that up and undo some of the things that Rian Johnson did. So there's that aspect of it where you feel like, this is just him having to backtrack, and that slows the movie down. And some other people have said, it's like they know this is the last of this trilogy of trilogies and that they're trying to cram everything in and answer all the questions and all that. And that can be a little bit tedious, but
Novendry?
Yeah, maybe. Mm-hmm. Maybe so. But again, people either really like it or they really hate it, which to me, like I've always said, that seems to be the mark of good art, because, if people are just bland about it, that's like the worst thing you can get. But that's this weekend. But, let's be honest, if you want to go to a movie that everybody agrees on, go see Cats. Because apparently everybody agrees on that movie. Oh, wow. Have you been seeing the reviews on this?
No.
Oh, my God. I'm only bringing this up because I'm gobsmacked about the things I've been hearing about this movie. When you see it, you're like, what the heck is this going to be about? But I had no idea afterward. I've not even seen this movie. And the stuff I've seen on it, the reviews I've seen on this film, I can barely talk because it's not just like it's a bad movie. It's insane. Mm-hmm. There are people saying that the only writer who could do a review justice on this film is H.P. Lovecraft. it's existential horror is what they're saying this movie is. It's like it not only makes you question why this movie exists, it makes you question why human beings in general exist.
You know, motion capture has, come such a long way, and it can be a beautiful part of storytelling, like, Planet of the Apes, etc. But Cats, in the stage sense, for makeup, it was such an innovative show.
Yeah.
Very seldom did you get such beautiful just makeup work that you were able to, maybe age makeup, maybe prosthetics, but actually becoming, turning humans into animals, which, then would have led, about 10 years later to The Lion King. And then you turn these humans into lions for these beautiful stage productions. That was such an integral part of that show, of the Andrew Lloyd Webber legacy, that I kind of feel like that should have been a bigger part of it than the motion capture. They should have, what I feel is they really should have tried to do it makeup and maybe some animatronics. There's just something about it, and maybe it goes back to the Gene Roddenberry when you're making aliens. If you leave the eyes in the mouth so that you can identify, so that you can see their eyes and you can hear them speak. And I really don't know how to describe it.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing about it is this thing is definitely uncanny valley to the nth degree, for sure. What makes this whole thing worse is the fact that the size of these creatures change all the time. You can't tell from one moment to the next what size they are. They wear coats that look like cat fur, so you're sitting there questioning yourself. Are they skinning each other to wear each other? One reviewer said there is a scene with Rebel Wilson that you will not come back from. It's like they went into the uncanny valley with shovels and decided to see how farther down they could go. I mean, reviewers were leaving this movie feeling terrified and confused. They said this is the most. The thing about it is, I haven't seen the musical, although I've heard music from it. But it's like the musical is. There's not a whole lot of storyline into it. I mean, there's setups for songs and that sort of thing, but there's a lot of stuff going on in this movie that people are just. One reviewer said it literally gave him a migraine trying to figure all this stuff out.
Yeah, I did notice that. The play itself is kind of anthology-like. It's based on a book of poems by T.S. Eliot, and so the musical is a bit of an anthology. It does feel like in this movie that perhaps they have tried to add storyline that wasn't in there. Right.
But that's the thing about it too, is that all these reviewers have been saying about this movie is just like it's not like just a bad movie, but it's creepy as all get out, and it doesn't make any sense, and people were worried about it's so uncanny valley, it's messed up. One reviewer described this as disturbingly erotic. Yeah, because it's like it just leaves you terrified and confused, and you don't know. The thing about it is this. I mean, as somebody who's gone to see movies like Midsummer and Martyrs and Audition and a lot of these really transgressive horror films, I wasn't interested in seeing Cats. Now that I've seen all these reviews, there's a masochistic part of me that's now starting to get interested. I'm wondering, I'm not saying that this is a William Castle attempt at trying to get people to come in and see this movie.
They're going to tell people to drop acid and then go see the movie,
but
like Tommy.
But it's working on me. I'm kind of curious now, and that's what's weird about this whole thing. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if this is just some sort of weird setup to make you go see this creepy freaking movie. That's going to in all of this. It's a horror film, not meant to look like a horror film. But now I'm curious. I don't know. Give me a couple of days to think about this. Ask me at the first part of the year, did I go to see Cats? And if I got that look on my face, I probably did. But I'm like I said, I don't know how I'm gonna how to take this, because it just seems like it's going to be.
Well, I don't know that Andrew Lloyd Webber has had many successes. When his work is put to film, I mean, I don't think Evita did very well.
Yeah, Phantom of the Opera.
I think it was okay. I don't think it did anything special. So, yeah, I don't know.
Well, the thing about it is when you take, you can adapt stage to the screen. I think it can happen, but especially with musicals, I think that there's something about seeing it on stage. There's a magic to it that I don't think you can really capture on the silver screen. I think the same thing with a magic show. Mm-hmm. I think seeing it on film as compared to seeing it live on stage, I think that's a major difference.
Yep.
Just not the same thing. And I think that's the same thing with these musicals. I just don't think that they're going to translate well. But yeah, this whole uncanny valley thing, I'm just like, I wasn't interested in seeing it. Now that, that this may be the existential horror film of the Christmas season, do I go see it now? I don't know. But we'll address that again at the beginning of the year. But of course, like I said, this is the last podcast of the year. And of course, we are getting into the Christmas season. And so I did want to spend some time wishing people a Merry Christmas or Happy Hanukkah or Saturnalia. Joyous
Kwanzaa, yes. Blessings of Yule.
Yes, Festivus for the rest of us. Mm-hmm. So this has been a great year. Of course, we've had a full year of doing the podcast together, and I've enjoyed it very much. And of course, we're going to be taking a break over the next couple of weeks to enjoy Christmas, but we will be coming back the first part of January. And our plan is to continue to step our game up. We're doing new stuff on the podcast, and eventually we might even do a live video podcast. We're looking at doing that here sometime soon. We're looking at the logistics of it, but as of right now, of course, I want to wish everybody happy holidays, whether you're with your family or your friends. Hopefully you'll have a good holiday season. And so, Mandy, what you got planned for the holidays?
Family's coming in this weekend, and that's all so far. After that, it's kind of a toss-up to see who's free when. Yeah.
Well, of course, I'll be spending holidays with my family and spending time with the nieces and the nephews as I do. And like I say, this will be an interesting holiday season. We wish you guys the happiest of holidays. And we will, of course, see you next year and the next decade. So with that said, we come to the end of episode 93 of the Geek Watch podcast. Thank you for listening, and tune in next time for the latest in geek news and views with the Geek Watch podcast. From Mandy Petrie, this is Brian Hatcher, reminding all the Geek Watchers out there, we're all geeky about something. Be proud of yours. See you in 2020. Thank you for listening to the Geek Watch podcast. If you enjoyed this program, don't forget to like and subscribe on your preferred platform and share this podcast on your social media. For links to all the ways you can listen to the Geek Watch podcast, as well as leave comments and suggestions, visit our website at geekwatch.net. The Geek Watch podcast is a Hanging J production.